Welcome back to another episode of Built and Backed. Joining me today is Kane, the founder of Rellia, a platform that connects early stage digital health, medical device, wellness, and diagnostic companies with industry experts, healthcare practitioners, and engaged investors. Megan, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Ashley. Happy to be here.
I'm excited to have you here. I'd love to start off by having you share more about you and what you do at Rellia.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like you said, Rellia is an incubator for all kinds of digital health and wellness companies. And for those that aren't familiar with the incubator structure, we basically try to provide any kind of supports that a startup could be looking for. So that can be anything from trying to connect to mentors and advisors that work in the industry that can help them to answer questions or get somebody unstuck on a topic. We help them with funding and getting connection with investors and anybody who can help them grow, including grants and non-dilutive funding as well. We help them with product development resources so we can actually bring people onto their team, either in a fractional capacity or a volunteer space or a full-time hire to be able to help their company grow. We're a community of fellow founders, so sometimes you just need those supports to reach out to when you just need somebody in your corner. We really try to do anything that a startup might need to help them grow.
Oh, I love it. And I'm curious to hear what inspired you to ultimately get the idea for Rellia and really brought it out into the world.
I never anticipated that I would be here, to be perfectly honest. It wasn't something I thought of for many, many years, but I started to get more involved in the startup ecosystem because of my background in regulatory affairs in the medical device industry. So I worked with a lot of other incubators and accelerators and startups as an advisory role. And through that, I was able to see a lot about how these programs work and how startups really are seeking all these kinds of supports. And I noticed a few key gaps that made me really interested in going out on my own. So the first one for me was specific to healthcare. I found a lot of startups were going through programs that were more industry agnostic. And so they were getting great advice there when it comes to general business advice and general growth strategies. But for the areas that make healthcare really unique, they just weren't getting the types of supports they needed. So in healthcare, you can't just do an early user study or get some early beta users while you're still developing a pharmaceutical or something. You can't just actually go out and start letting people trial it without the right compliance in place to make sure that people are safe when they're using your device or your pharmaceutical. So the advice they were getting to go out and get those early beta testers doesn't really apply there, right? So they weren't necessarily getting the help they needed. I was also seeing that when they were going to the pitch competitions, say at the end of an accelerator program, and they're competing against a B2B SaaS product that can go out to consumers in less than 6 months, they're never going to win in front of an investor who doesn't understand the time and money that it takes in healthcare. So I wanted to be able to get them in front of people who really understood that industry and that set them up for success that way. The other
Mhm.
side of things that I felt were kind of missing was a community that's very supportive and positive. I actually noticed this in an event that I did with the Femtech Canada, and I noticed such a palpable difference in the way that that group supported each other and connected and really genuinely wanted to help each other that I thought I want to be able to bring that same kind of energy to general medical device and digital health because I didn't feel that same kind of environment in the groups I've been a part of previously.
And I love that you firsthand experienced all of these problems or gaps that were happening within health tech overall, and especially what you shared about startup founders joining like the more of the agnostic communities or incubators. Like, yes, of course, they get great general advice, but to your point, there's so many nuances within health tech specifically that they likely weren't getting all the information or advice or tips that they really needed in order to succeed with their startups. So I think it's amazing that you are so focused and so niched in that sense to be able to provide them with the resources, connections, and advice that they're looking for as they build and grow.
I mean, think about a founder who's building a consumer product. That founder is likely also a consumer and they understand who their users are really deeply. But oftentimes in healthcare, the founder only sort of knows how the healthcare system works or truly how that device would be used in a clinical setting. They think they understand it, but they don't know it quite in the same way that you would if you were actually a user of your own product. So for them, there's this extra learning curve that they have to jump over in order to be successful. And you can't really get there without the right connections.
Totally. And on the topic of connections too, you mentioned a really great point about getting inspiration from FemTech Canada and how the members within there were just so positive and uplifting and supportive of each other. And I think that's a really good point that you bring there is that all communities or incubators, accelerators, whatever it might be in tech, definitely need that vibe, so to say. So I love that you really work to emulate that and bring that positivity and support back to Rellia and the health tech community specifically.
We're really strict about the types of people that we invite into the community. So we're only allowing people in if they're supportive and genuinely looking to help each other. If we sort of get the sense that somebody's there to try to take advantage of founders or try to see them as potential clients or not actually there with the right intentions, we just simply don't let them in the community. And so what we're left with is a group of people who are so incredibly supportive and kind and eager to jump in and help whenever somebody needs it. And when everyone in the room has that same energy, it just sort of fosters even more of it. So it's been the most incredible group of people to be around.
Definitely. And I'm curious to hear how Rellia has grown since you started it. Is it almost a year ago? I forget exactly when your launch date was, but how it's grown in that time since.
Yeah, I mean, it's not even been a year yet,
Oh
to
my
be honest.
goodness.
I know we chatted pretty early last, I think, in its inception. It started off with just trying to, you know, do some market research and understand the needs of founders. So I did a lot of talking with founders and other incubators around the world and VCs and consultants and lots of people who had thoughts about what should exist in this ecosystem. And it started off as let me just do 6 months to a year of just talking and learning and understanding. And then it snowballed so quickly because people were so enthusiastic about how this needs to exist. Here are some ideas of supports that we need. Here's how you can help us. And it was just so engaging and exciting. And it came together so rapidly, sort of like a snowball effect out of my control. So it launched much quicker than I expected. We officially launched the community this summer. We
Mhm.
were doing things grassroots for a little while and making some connections for people sort of behind the scenes and trying to get people placed in different companies before then. But officially, we became a community in July of this year. And since then, the growth has been so fun. We're launching new programs all the time, and we have so many more things in the works that I can't wait to share about. So, yeah, the growth has been incredible, and I love watching it.
Oh my gosh. And to your point, I mean, you've done so much that it made me think that you launched like much longer ago. But I mean, that's a testament to you and all of the hard work and dedication that you've put into building this incubator and really being able to create a solid community for anyone in health tech. And I would love for you to share that next, like share exactly how any health tech founders or anyone else in the health tech sector can get involved in Relia and what it is that you offer.
And I appreciate you saying that. I know as a fellow founder, you can probably relate to this, but it feels sometimes like you're pouring so much love into something and you have all these great ideas of what you want to be able to offer and you can only release so much at a time as you're building. So it can
Mhm.
sometimes feel from the founder's perspective like you're not quite doing enough yet. There's so much more you want to do. So thank you for that. Yeah, and for people who want to get involved, there are lots of different ways. Of course, founders themselves are so welcome to join our community and we're happy to meet them wherever they are. So it doesn't matter what stage. We have founders who are still at the idea stage, who are still building their initial prototype. We have founders who have MVPs. We have founders who have launched and are focused on scaling. So you can apply directly on our website at reliahealth.com. And then you can connect with me and we figure out from there what resources are most helpful for you. If you're already somebody who's maybe not a founder, but you work in the health tech field and you're interested in getting involved, we have lots of mentor and advisor roles available. So you can share your expertise. That's how I got started in the ecosystem, because I just had a career background in the industry and thought maybe there's some founders who might benefit from some of my advice. And I found it really rewarding to be able to share something that I had worked on my whole career and a little bit of advice from someone can sometimes steer a company in an entirely new direction. So I found it very rewarding. And so people can reach out to us again through our website to be able to sign up as a mentor. We also do pitch events. So investors can have a pitch event tailored to their ethos and their thesis. And they can reach out to us as well through our website. And then we also have our clinician events too. So healthcare practitioners can match up one-on-one with founders in their relevant specialty area. So in November, we're launching an event for women's health, for example. So we have lots of OB-gynecologists, we have endocrinologists and midwives and lots of folks in women's health. And then we match them with a women's health founder so that they can give feedback, look for advisory board positions. Maybe some of them might be interested in being co-founders. So many, many ways to get involved for sure.
Amazing. And I love that you have so many different offerings and even resources that you can provide to these founders, depending on what exactly they need. As you shared, like once you really get to meet with them, you can kind of see where they might need some additional support and then connect them to the person or to the tool or resource that will help them to get where they're looking to go.
We're a startup ourselves, so we absolutely understand the mindset of pivoting to what our users need. So we love to hear directly from founders of what they're looking for and what they're not. So they're not
Mhm.
wasting their time on going through a program if maybe that's not what they need. Maybe they know where they're going. They just need the funding or they just need the right expert to help them get there. So we're very happy to adapt based on where those founders' gaps are.
Absolutely. And there are so many things that I think that you do so well. And one of them is community, like building a community, connecting people, and really, as you shared, like creating that ecosystem. And you've probably had very similar conversations, but I've had so many conversations with multiple people in tech that just talk about how important that community is. And so I think for anyone who doesn't have a community yet or doesn't feel like they're a part of one, I think it's so important to get involved in one or start one themselves. And so I'd love to hear your advice about how you've built community and have been able to ultimately expand your network and meet great people who you're able to support and vice versa.
I appreciate that. Thank you. And I also don't really think of myself as a community builder. It doesn't feel like a strength that comes naturally to me. I'm much more of an introvert, to be perfectly honest. Um, but I found that when you approach interactions with the idea of trying to help someone or offer something, and even if you don't feel like you personally have something to offer in a situation, because I think that advice can sometimes feel intimidating to people who are trying to network or try to grow their community. But if you can think of someone that you can connect them to, that can also be an offer that's really strong. And so I found that to be the best way to build community is early on when I was talking to people and they mentioned some sort of a need that they had, I was very willing to scour my LinkedIn or reach out to an old colleague or an old friend if I thought that that person might be a helpful connection. And then those connections breed other connections. And then this becomes this network sort of organically, all because all you're doing is trying to help connect other people. And if you focus more on what you can give to them, then those connections come back tenfold. And it's been so rewarding. And I've had people in the Rellia network who are such great connectors for me and for other members as well that, I'm just so grateful to have those people. So anytime that you can be that person for someone else, excuse me, is I think so meaningful to that person to be able to share those connections.
Oh, absolutely. And you worded it perfectly. If there is any way that you feel like you could support or help someone who is looking for a certain ask or help with something specific, like why not do it? And exactly to your point, I mean, not that you're doing it to intentionally get something in return, but it does just naturally come back and in return. And anyone, and then the next time you're looking for something, or whether it's help or support, like someone's there to then help you because you did that for them as well.
It takes those extra 2 seconds, and I think that's why some people don't bother with it. It takes that little bit of time to send the message, send the email to make that connection. But the people that are willing to just take those 2 minutes to write that message, it just honestly makes such a difference in the community. So I really encourage people to really take the time, and it's worth it.
100%. And I also think on the topic of connections and communities, you've done a really good job of balancing both like the virtual connections and communities and in person stuff in Canada. And so I'm curious to hear if you find that both are really helpful for you, if you might find that like maybe in person is more beneficial than virtual, or just curious to hear your thoughts on that. I know some people kind of wonder if they should kind of look in both places or go all in on one versus the other.
Strong advocate that you have to meet people where they are. So I think having both is really important. There's no doubt that the energy of an in-person event is irreplaceable. You can't quite get that same excitement from a virtual event. And I do really love going in person. I find the connections you make there can sometimes feel really strong when you've gone through an experience together with somebody. But especially since, working in the remote work life for so long and having a toddler now, I find that virtual events are just more accessible. I'm also located in Kitchener-Waterloo, which is outside of a major city center. So I find a lot of in-person events are inside major cities, and they aren't always accessible to people who can't get to those events very easily. And there's tons of great talent outside of the major metro cities. So I think it's really important for accessibility to be able to offer virtual events too. And for me, especially in healthcare or in tech in general, actually, the best talent comes from all over the world. There isn't one specific city or one specific region where the strongest candidates all are. So for me, the most important part, if you want to build a successful company, is to find the best person, not the best person who happens to live close to you. So having virtual community is the key to that, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. And especially like there's so many more opportunities too. I mean, look at us. You're in Canada, I'm in the US. And so it's nice that there's the opportunity to just meet with anyone geographically. Like you're not just limited to your more immediate region. You have the ability and capability to meet anyone at any point in the world, which I think is something that's just like one of the coolest things about having online communities and building connections in that sense is you get to meet people that you might not have had the chance to meet otherwise.
Absolutely. All right.
Yeah, I love it. And I also think it's amazing. One thing I'd love for you to share more about is the fact that you recently went full time with Rellia. And so a lot of our listeners and audience members are, I think, in a similar position to what you were in previously, where they likely had another job and were building something on the side. And so I'd love to have you share like your experience and your journey of being able to go full time and what that looked like for you.
Yeah, okay. It was a kind of an unexpected story. So my company that I was working for, I really enjoyed that work. It was fully remote, so it allowed me a lot of flexibility with my time, which helped a lot. So I was able to start building Relia and also do some advisory work for a few startups in regulatory affairs, which is my background. So I was juggling working full time and also building a startup and also doing consulting work all at once. Was very busy. I was very stressed trying to juggle it all. But that flexibility allowed me to, work my hours in a way that I could do that. So I could work in the evenings, I could work early in the morning. I have a 2-year-old, so we're juggling around bedtimes and nap times and bath time and all the things. So we fit all the work in as best we could. And eventually, Relly was growing so much and was adding more consulting projects. It was getting to be quite a lot to juggle. And I was starting to think about what a transition would look like. And I'm such a planner. So I was, planning month by month for many months out how I would make this transition and how it would all go and starting to get excited about it. And then my company went through a restructuring and laid off a significant portion of their staff, including my whole department. So it sort of came earlier than I was expecting, but I thought, I could apply for a new full-time role, or I could go all in on these other two things that I've been building. And I just felt like my energy and my excitement was in Relia and what I'm building there, that I just couldn't get as excited for any other role as for what I'm doing right now. So I decided, let's go for it. Let's go all in. And that was only about 2.5 weeks ago.
Oh
So
my
pretty
gosh.
recent. Yeah. But honestly, since I've made the transition, it's been so wonderful. I've loved being able to pour myself into Relia all day, every day, and have that full time to be able to dedicate to it. It's been so great.
Oh, absolutely. And I can't even imagine what it was like to go through that restructuring and kind of have something unexpected happen like that. But it also makes me wonder that it was maybe a sign for you. Like it was something that was meant to happen. And I am just so excited for you to see how you'll continue to grow and what you'll continue to build upon at Relia being in this role full time. And like you said, just having the time and energy and space to do so.
And yeah, I threw in the part about me being a planner because I think that's something I'm learning over and over and over again throughout my life is I try so hard to plan my career and what it will look like and plan what the next steps are and do things really strategically and organized. And then that's never how life goes. And there's always a curveball and there's always an unexpected step. And I keep telling myself, oh, now I've learned that you can't plan everything, but surely I will do it again and again.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And I think you mentioned too that you do consulting in addition to Relia. Is that right?
That's right, yeah. So my background is in regulatory affairs and quality management. So I help healthcare startups to be able to be in compliance with the laws that apply to them. I've done that work with many organizations throughout my career. So I love to help companies in a fractional capacity or in consulting to unblock them in any way.
Oh, amazing. And so I'm curious to hear, like, if you would be able to share more info about how any startups who would be looking for any support with that, like specific services or offerings that could benefit them.
So they can connect directly through Relia's website or just connecting with me directly on LinkedIn is also an easy way. Or they can email me too. I can share that email with you. But always happy to connect with startups. In compliance, there's more nuance as to what kinds of companies should work with what kind of consultants. I'm happy to always connect and see if they're not sure if it's the right fit or not, and we could discuss what the right type of person expertise is for them. And even if it's not me, I have a whole network of people in regulatory and quality that I think are amazing. So I'm happy to recommend the right person for them.
Oh, I love that. And I think that's such a good point that you bring up as just, again, like having the right group of people that you can refer or recommend when it comes around. I think that's one of the things I love most about tech communities is just the no gatekeeping mentality and having those resources readily available to support anyone and having their best interests at heart for sure.
It's a small community of us community builders who
Yeah,
I think are, even though we're all kind of working in the same area, we support each other so genuinely and so are willing to help. And I am such a strong believer that everyone benefits when we work in collaboration that way. So I'm all for that.
totally. And for anyone who is building a health tech startup who's listening to this episode, what advice would you have for them for getting started and being successful?
Did. I mean, it really depends on what that founding team has in their toolkit already and what they need support on. But I would say generally that there's no founding team that I've seen so far, anyway, that has all of the expertise that you need to be successful. It's just not possible for the 1 to 2 people that start that company to know the ins and outs of every single area of the business. There's just so much to learn. There's hospital systems, there's clinical trials, there's regulatory, there's marketing. There's just so many sides of a health tech business that you can't be the expert in all domains. And your ChatGPT co-founder can only do so much for you. So at a certain point, you have to be able to lean on people who have that expertise. And so finding communities where those people exist and where they're already saying that they're willing to help is a really great place to start so that you can ask those experts for the advice. You can try to dig through the depths of LinkedIn trying to find those people, but they're not always willing to share their knowledge for free. If you come to a community where there's people who are already really open to helping and supporting, you're much more likely to find success and find your advisors that you're going to need to be able to grow your business.
Absolutely. And I think you alluded to a really great point, which is the whole idea of knowing what you don't know and being able to seek out the answers to things that you might need a little bit more help or knowledge in that someone else is truly an expert in that can be able to support you in that capacity.
Yeah. And I want to add to that too that I've seen some founders who are nervous about asking people for support. They see somebody who's very experienced or senior in their career, and they maybe assume that that person is too busy to help or uninterested in helping startups. And I've actually found a lot of the mentors that I work with, even when they have incredible careers and they are very busy and they are very senior, a lot of them are very willing to help if just asked. So instead of holding back from asking as a founder, I would encourage you to do the reach out to see if somebody's open to it. The worst that happens is they'll say no and you move on to the next person, but to reach out much more than I see a lot of founders do.
Yes, that's so true. It's like you don't know what opportunities you could be missing out on if you aren't asking. And similar to what you just shared, one of my favorite mantras that I try to always repeat to myself is if you don't ask, the answer is always no. And like you said, the worst they can say is no. So then you just move on to the next person who might be able to help. But yeah, I think just being able to know when to wave the white flag and be able to find someone who could potentially help you. I mean, you never know what could come from that.
Sure, I like that one.
And one thing I'd love to hear too is anything that might be coming up for Rellia in 2026. If there, I know you mentioned you have so many exciting things that are in the works and are being planned, and I'd love to hear anything that you are able to share that will be rolling out and launching.
We have so many things I'm excited about. I think 2026 for us will be a year of creating more structured programs for the types of founders who like to follow a designed process. Right now, a lot of our resources are sort of a la carte. So based on whatever that founder needs, we can get them the exact right resources that they're looking for. And we'll still continue to do that for those founders who want to sort of piecemeal their way through the process. But we've definitely encountered a lot of founders, and I think myself, I'm this type of person where I like something that is really start to finish. Let me follow all the steps, do it in the right order, and get that advice in a way that I maybe wouldn't have thought of to get the advice. And so we're going to be launching a lot more of those types of programs. And some of them will be larger and some will be smaller. We'll also have some more individualized programs, like say you're trying to complete a task, or if you're trying to complete building a quality management system. We have a program launching soon that will allow a founder to walk through how to build that quality management system, again, with the right advice and guidance along the way, but they're able to execute on that project by going through one of those programs. So we're very excited about launching those. It can be a little bit more hands-on for some of the founders. We also have the clinician connection program that I sort of mentioned a little bit, where we're pairing healthcare practitioners and founders. We're going to launch a lot more of those with some new specialties in the new year. And we're also launching some more pitching practice, so giving people tools to be more effective at their investor pitches. So lots of things are coming. I'm very, very excited about. I could
I
go
know
on
it's
for
like
days about
I was gonna say it seems like
it.
the opportunities are endless, which is really amazing. I mean, like I shared at the beginning, you've really thought of everything that anyone in health tech could use or could find beneficial. And so I love that you're thinking about all these different opportunities to, as you shared, meet people where they are and provide them with what they're looking for.
The worst thing you should do as a founder. I'm always telling founders to try to narrow the scope of their early launches, but I just am so excited about trying to bring as much as we can to the founders and be able to help any founder with whatever problem they're facing, that I just can't stop launching these programs. So it's probably not the right way, but here we are.
It's a good problem to have for sure.
Yeah.
And this might be a tough question for you, but what's your favorite part about what you've been able to do at Rellia? If there's even like an example of a great outcome or result that came from anyone within the community that you could share, like I'd love to hear
Really tough, you're right, because there are a lot of really high highs. I will say one of the things that was really important to me when launching Relia was to highlight the voices of people that I think are A, good people, and B, more diverse voices than tend to get highlighted in the tech industry in general. And so I really wanted to bring those types of people up as mentors and as speakers on our webinars and hosts of our events, and give the future CEOs of healthcare that are coming through this program the right kind of person as their model for who the experts are. So that as they grow and their companies scale and they become, the next generation, they think of those types of people when they're thinking of the expert. So it's really, really important to me that we're not just highlighting people who are very senior and very experienced and very successful. We're still highlighting those successful, experienced people, but they're also people who are really passionate and caring and kind. And we created this sort of inclusive, uplifting environment because of highlighting those people. And that's something I'm really, really proud of.
I love that. And especially like it's such a good point because sometimes, I mean, even though like you shared, it's so great to share the people who are very successful and have had a lot that they've accomplished. Sometimes it almost seems like maybe the founders can't relate to them necessarily, or it might seem like there's a little bit of a disconnect. And so I love that you've really put a priority, an intention around being able to bring in people that they can relate to and really see as someone that they model themselves after or view as an inspiration.
Sorry, I don't know if you heard my doorbell ringing. I'll hear my dog in a second.
Oh, that's okay. No, I didn't hear it.
Okay. But yes, I absolutely agree with that. And I think even somebody who is very successful, they can sometimes not clock the fact that they're also very privileged. And so when they're sharing their secrets to success and they're saying it's because I worked really hard and I, did X, Y, and Z, you're right, a founder might not relate to that because they're saying I'm doing those exact same things, Yet if I haven't had the privilege that you have, maybe I'm not in the same scenario. So they can't relate always to the story of how they got there. Whereas if we highlight successful people who are more aware of how they got there and why, or they have a more different story about how they got there, I think that can be far more relatable.
100%. And on the topic of bringing in really great people to help lead these programs and be a part of Relia, I'm curious to hear who you would admire right now in tech. So if there's anyone who's doing something cool right now that you'd love to give a shout out to, who's really inspiring you, I'd love to hear who that might be.
Great question. It's so hard because I'm surrounded every day by people doing amazing things in tech. So it feels it's like choosing your favorite child. It's like, how do
I
I pick my
know.
favorite? I will just maybe give a bit of a plug for checking out Relia's LinkedIn because we do highlight our, mentors and CEOs and people in the community who are doing amazing things. And we'll continue to do that over time of, highlighting those success stories. So I think the people that we emphasize there, I'm really proud of, really grateful to know and to have in our community. I think I also want to give a shout out to somebody in the ecosystem who I think has really made a strong impact and is continuing to make an impact. And that's the executive director of Diversity by Doing, Ingrid Ellerby. She met with me very, very early in the inception of Relia. Before we even had a name, before I even really knew what it was I was going to be building, I just started had these ideas of ways I wanted to help. And she was so incredibly kind about meeting with me. She's a very busy woman. She's running this whole program. I had nothing to offer her when I met her. I just said, I'm very new to this, but I just had some questions. I want to understand. And the way that she showed up for me has stuck with me all throughout this process. And I think will continue to stick with me for years. She's the kind of mentor and leader that I aspire to be because she came into that conversation not expecting anything of me with no ego, the fact that I was just so new to the whole process and just there to ask her questions. And the way she supported and encouraged me, even when I was at the start, is the way that I want to show up for every founder. And I believe that she's really building a community of people who are also really there to genuinely support and help. So I don't know if that's like a new person in tech, but I think she deserves to be celebrated.
And that's such a good one. And I think we all should aspire to be like her, like you shared, to just be open to meeting with people, answering questions, seeing how we can support one another. Because I feel like when one person wins, everyone wins. And I think that's so important to remember as we all go forward with building and working on things that excite us.
It's something I hope that no matter where I go in my career or no matter how busy I get or what I end up doing, that I always make the time for people in the way that she made time for me. That she was
Mm-hmm.
able to carve out just a few minutes to answer some questions and, make me feel heard during that process. And I really believe that everybody should do that for everybody. And I hope that I continue to have that the rest of my life.
Absolutely. I love that. Megan, this has been such a fun episode, and I've so enjoyed having you coming on Built and Back to talk about everything that you've been up to with Relia and everything that you'll be doing moving forward. And now I'd love to have you share with our listeners where they can find you online in case they'd like to connect.
So, yeah, it's been a blast chatting with you. Good to see you as always. Anyone can find me on our website at reliahealth.com or directly through our LinkedIn, the Relia Health LinkedIn, or my LinkedIn personally. You can also email us at hello@reliahealth.com. And we're always happy to chat. My DMs are always open for a coffee chat. So please, please reach out to me anytime.
Amazing. And I'll include all those places in the show notes that our listeners can easily find you and connect with you from there. But thank you so much again for coming on this week's episode.
Thank you, Ashley.